Sweet Christmas.
Shout out to my birds.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Che.
This is Corey.
And this is the Next Time On Podcast, a podcast where two lifelong friends discuss all things amazing and all things fetid in popular culture. It would be like if instead of making the Green Lantern movie, Ryan Reynolds just made better decisions, just better life decisions.
What are you talking about, like at the Adam Project?
You texted me earlier today about the Adam Project, and I have not watched the trailer for it.
I'm
not because I'm
watch
intending
it.
to see it, but just because I literally don't care about its existence.
No, I don't either.
What
you know
what
me,
is
I'm
it?
like,
Is
hey,
it like a sci-fi movie?
it's
superhero
one of
movie?
those. It's like I think he like goes back in time and teams up with his younger self to do something. I don't fucking know. It's one of those things where I'm like, I feel like this could have been like fun in a different universe, but it just feels like it's probably going to be like overly melodramatic.
Is this the last movie we're getting from Ryan Reynolds before his hiatus?
Yeah, but as they just freaking signed on the director to do Deadpool 3, so who fucking knows how long that hiatus is going to take.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, he's on it right now. He probably won't even start filming Deadpool for another year, so I guess.
Well, for those of you who might be wondering where the hell he went, don't worry about it. Just real life stuff. We're back now, though. Just in time.
So if I sound rusty at doing this, I apologize. It's just been a while.
How could you get rusty at talking bullshit, Corey? We're bullshit experts.
You know me, man. I spent the last 2 weeks, I've been reading intelligent books, nonfiction.
Nobody believes that.
What
nonfiction books are you reading? The dictionary? What are you talking about?
I read the dictionaries. I've read the dictionary recently. Front to back. The Bible, looking for good stories. You know, all good stories start there.
I was about to make a joke about that being not nonfiction, but I decided to pull back. No, I don't want to come in too hot after our hiatus.
How to win friends and influence people. How to lose friends and make everyone hate you.
Have you seen that movie? How to win friends and
I've read the book with like.
No, I know, but have you seen the movie?
No, I didn't know that was actually a book.
Yeah, it's a Simon Pegg movie.
How to make friends and influence people?
Yeah, it's based on the I'm just gonna do a quick Google.
Talking about The Secret? It's weird that somebody made.
No, I
book.
never saw The Secret movie. Maybe I am making it up. There is some movie that Simon Pegg was in that's based off of like a similar. I'm not gonna Google it because that's terrible podcast material. But either way, I mean, if you haven't read the title yet, listen, the people know what they're in store for. If you haven't read the title yet, you should know this is the Far Sector Book Club episode, which we of course announced a long time ago, but got a little bit pushed back just because, like I said, real life stuff. But also, we before we get into all that good stuff, a couple points of business. Please go rate us 5 stars. Really helps us out. Helps new people find the podcast. All that good stuff. Also, go follow us at Next Time On Pod on all your social media platforms and check out the website, nexttimeon.net. That's where all of our archived writing, all of our past and future episodes will be. And newest addition to the Internet Footprint family will be our YouTube channel, which is in the description. And I think our first YouTube exclusive will be hitting the channel pretty soon. So don't forget to go over there and subscribe.
You can see me wear a shirt that's way too small for me, and I just realized it until like just now.
That's fine.
I can't breathe. You guys just look into that if you're interested to see what I'm wearing.
Corey's dishing out the OF content on the YouTube channel.
I am selling NFTs next. Let's fucking sell out.
I mean, I feel like comic book artists are definitely getting into NFTs,
DC
right?
Comics just announced they were doing NFTs, so they could, so.
I listen. I know it's like a hot button thing, and then a second somebody says they don't get it, you get some weird bro like jumps out of the shadows and lectures you on it. I don't get NFTs. I don't understand why you'd ever want to spend money on them.
I don't understand it either. If I really like something like that, I could just save it.
Yeah, don't try to educate us on NFTs, listeners. Don't slide in the DMs. Don't go in the YouTube comments talking about NFTs. We do not care.
It's the stupidest version of like clout, being like, yeah, I own this. Like, who gives a fuck?
Somebody gives a fuck though. That's the sad part.
A lot of people give a fuck, which is the worst part.
All right, should we do this?
Talk about something that's actually important. Comic books.
I mean, listen, it's more important than NFTs.
Oh, yeah.
So, part one of our Far Sector discussion, basically, who made this book? Corey, do you want to run down the accolades of our, I think, maybe most famous writer we've ever done on the... I guess no. She's probably not as famous as, like, Alan Moore, right? To, like, the common man walking down the street.
To common person walking down the street, you're probably right there. The only reason I'm stalling right now, my friends, is because my Google Docs stopped working.
Well,
sorry.
I got you. I'll jump
Thank you.
in.
I appreciate it. Something's been going on. I think I pissed off Big Google, and my shit's been fucked up forever.
So, of course, the writer of Far Sector is first-time comic book artist, or first-time comic book author, N.K. Jemisin. But N.K. Jemisin, obviously, if you haven't read any of her work, you will probably still recognize her name. She is a celebrated and famed science fiction novelist and short story writer, famous for a long list of works that I won't go all the way through, but some of the major ones include The Stone Sky, The Fifth Season, The City We Became, which I think, other than Far Sector, is her most recent work, off the top of my head. We also have...
I think you're correct.
Yeah, one of my favorites of hers, the short story collection she did, How Long Till Black Future Month, and it just recently got picked up. I can't say I've ever read the Broken Earth trilogy, but did just get recently picked up by Lionsgate for a film series, supposedly. So,
yeah, good for her.
Jemisin's out here doing big things, and Far Sector, of course, number one on Corey's list from last year, and number one on a lot of people's lists. One of the most celebrated comic books of 2021 for good reason.
Which is also just very impressive because it's hard. You don't usually get that from like coming from a major publisher like this.
No, I mean, I think
Especially
we did see
first-time writer,
similar.
too.
Yeah, we did see similar sort of response to Ta-Nehisi Coates' Black Panther Volume 1. I remember seeing that on a lot of end-of-year lists, but I know, Corey, we famously talked about that, and how it was good, but very flawed. And
yes.
he has drastically improved as a writer, as a comic book writer, I should say, over the years, and I think it's a very good parallel. I mean, not just because they're two established black writers who went into comic books and took on Coates' character, obviously more established, not just more established, and
yes, it was
N.K. Jemisin
full ass lore and everything like that. But I mean, yeah, Jemisin with like this is I think it's also very different because like I mean, Coates' background isn't necessarily fiction, but it's also impressive to kind of come into this and see like the amount of like there's dialogue in it, but it doesn't necessarily feel like over explaining or like she does a good job of dressing up the exposition in a way that like it feels natural.
Yeah, I wonder had he written? No, because he's only written The Water Dancer. Now I think about it, so he hadn't written any fiction before taking on Black Panther. So yeah, I mean,
especially because comic books are such a weird like thing to jump into and write for. It's a very difficult thing. And I mean, like when I realized that it was like her first, as I was finishing up the book, and I'm like, okay, I got to read whatever else she's done. And I was just so surprised by the lack of any kind of other comic that she's like either like done like a short story for or anything like that. It's just absolutely impressive to see like how good she is at this.
Well, especially because, and as we talked about before, comic books are actually not that close a medium to novels and short stories. They're much closer to TV and movies than they are to going from TV and movies to comic books, which we've seen a lot. There's a lot of screenplay writers and even some directors that have written comic books in recent years. Less so do you see the successful move from novelist to comic book writer. I think, like I said, I'm gonna try not to reference Coates every time, but he's just kind of the perfect.
But no, it's like it is like
like
it's a visual based like medium.
Yeah.
And I feel like some people are really good at writing, but sometimes like a lot of writers that I've like talked to are like they're not really the best at like visualizing things in that capacity. Like a lot of like people I've met who like write screenplays. I mean, like I don't really picture my scenes, but like I can like write them out. But and I think that's kind of hard for some people to like kind of do both, and especially with comic books where you're acting as both obviously the artist and you work really well together, but it's basically designing the scene and the look in it when you're like kind of doing this comic book writing thing. And I'm just saying, like, the world that she established is a brand new fantasy world, like, that's doesn't feel overdone. It feels, if anything, I want to come back to this world after being like gone through the 12 issues, but I felt like it was fully explained in a way that I didn't really necessarily get overwhelmed with like the rules or the races, the society, just in general.
Yeah, I also think, I wonder whose decision it was. It was probably a joint decision, but I wonder whose more it was, DC, like DC publishers or Jemisin, to dive into basically completely new territory. I mean, we haven't seen, besides the existence of the Green Lantern Corps, there's no familiar characters in this story. I don't even know if any of these races have ever showed up before in any.
None of this. This is all. This is all very brand new.
Yeah.
But I think I don't remember. I didn't reread this again, but I first remember reading the foreword by Gerard Way, who Doom, for a very famous. I mean, obviously My Chemical Romance, but Doom Patrol, and Umbrella Academy, like comic book wise. But I think what happened basically is that this is under that DC imprint that never ended up going anywhere. What she ran was called Young Animal.
Young Animals, yeah. It's still sometimes a Young Animal book will drop.
Yeah, every once in a while. I mean, I was really excited for that imprint, and I was surprised to see it kind of like fizzled out a bit, because it was like kind of their more like out there, like semi-adult thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of that stuff just got sort of folded into Black Label. Like a lot of the stuff that was coming out under Young Animal is now DC Black Label books, which, you know, as long as they keep getting made. And we talked about at the demise of Vertigo how like it was really sad, but as long as they keep making stuff that would have been under Vertigo, I didn't really care what they called it, and that seems to still be the case. Like stuff like Far Sector is obviously still getting published because we got Far Sector. So
I think basically from like what I'm just scanning through is that like Gerard Way, he had this like kind of idea for this like world / character, but he didn't have enough, like he couldn't, like he's like, I couldn't flesh it out all the way. And then his friend recommended him that he read the Broken Earth trilogy as like a source of inspiration, and then I guess like he probably ended up, I'm assuming he ended up liking that writing so much that he went out of his way to bring her on board to like create this world.
Yeah, I mean it's a big swing.
Huge swing.
But I mean, like we said, she's a very established author, so it's not like she's a first time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Writer. I mean, like, yeah, it's like one of the things that you attach like a really big name writer to something, and it's like, holy shit, this is just good comic book writing. And then like Jamal Campbell, art and coloring is just bonkers as hell.
Yeah, well, it's a good transition to talk about the artist, who is, unlike N.K. Jemisin, relatively unknown, as you said.
Well, he's like a newer guy, yeah. Definitely. Not that Che and I, unfortunately, have not gotten a chance to read. I can't speak for you. I haven't got around to reading Naomi.
I think I read the first issue.
I just don't trust Bendis, but like the art.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, the art was definitely not the problem. I remember it not being very good though.
But like the art itself, and like that I've scanned through, it's like very well done. But this is like my first time reading a Jamal Campbell book, and I understood this like series took a while to come out, and I'm like, I understand why, and it definitely should not have been rushed. Because like at the end of this, like when it's all collected together, I'm like, oh, this is like gonna stand a test of time. It wasn't hitting weekly like monthly schedules, but still.
Yeah, I mean, although we got 12 issues in a little less than a year and a half, which by a lot of people's standards is pretty rapid. I mean, we got. How long did Strange Adventures take? Strange Adventures was like over the course of 3 years. Right? Well, listen, Doomsday Clock is like the worst possible case scenario. But even Strange Adventures, a book that I never really felt like it was moving really slow. There was, of course, it got stalled because it spanned the. But so I guess so did Far Sector span the pandemic, because it started in. Did it start before in early 2020, or did it? Start
I think it started. I think it might have like. Oh shit! I think it might have started in 2019, but no, I think it was 2020. I think you're correct.
Yeah. Either way,
it started 29. The first issue came out in November of 2019.
Yeah, so it had the same. It had the same hiatus that Strange Adventures did, and Strange Adventures was over 3 years. Started in 2018, and then didn't finish until 2021. Which, hey, listen, the book is fucking amazing. So what can I say?
Great, yes.
I mean, I as somebody who's never even pretended to try to write or draw a comic book, I don't really know how long these things take, but it does seem like it shouldn't take 3 years to draw 12 books?
No, unless every page you're doing is some kind of like sprawling metropolis with all intricate details in it. But like,
Which
there's only so many people who can do this, and not like Mobius is alive anymore. So,
oh my god, we should have bid on that Jodorowsky Dune book. Then we could have made our own movie, Corey.
we're so fucking stupid.
That's what I'm saying. NFT bros don't know fucking nothing. That's why I don't want them to talk to me.
Can we can we make ourselves NFTs and sell ourselves? Is that how it works?
I think so. I don't really understand. Like I said, I don't understand NFTs. I don't. Like I said, there's not a ton to say about Jamal Campbell. Just like he's a relatively new face. I'm excited. Obviously, anybody who's seen the art in this book will be excited to see his work going forward.
I'm definitely gonna go back and pick up Naomi just for the art.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm excited to see like his future in just comic books, because like this book which just blew me away like with every page.
Yeah, and he did art and color and all main covers. I actually don't even know if there are any alternate covers for any of these books. I didn't see any. Also, shout out to Darren Bennett, who does the lettering for all 12 issues, and editor Andy Corey, who edited this series. It is, yeah, I mean, it like I said, very well celebrated. This book is really fantastically written, and like Corey said, it's a look into a fresh new world, which is something that I personally cry out for all the time from the big two. Yeah. You have all of this leeway to publish sort of anything you want. You slap a Green Lantern symbol on the front, get a big name, whatever. You can kind of publish whatever you want. Why? And listen, I love Batman books. We're going to talk about Batman later in the week. Don't worry. But I just don't know why we need 30 Batman books when you could be making stuff like this.
It's like, I mean, it's also that it's like, it's a good way to take something well known and then like kind of shift it into your own thing. Like, I mean, it's like, it's recognizable, but it also has like a draw to it.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of the Green Lantern Corps, which Marvel doesn't really have an equivalent, which I think is a miss from them, where you can create a new character and still have them be familiar, because the Green Lantern Corps has like these rules that apply to it.
Nowhere near as cool, but like the Nova Corps does exist, but nowhere near. I'm just saying nowhere near as cool.
Yes, you know, you're right. It does exist, but nobody's out here picking up Nova Corps books. Like,
I just don't want to lose our nerd cred. All right, man.
Fair. I meant something with like name recognition that people will go get a book for. There was that Nova book. 2019 Nova book that was actually pretty good and then got canceled. So
yeah, there was I think it was early 2000s, like early 2010s. There was a Nova book and it's like really, really fucking good.
Yeah. And of course Marvel does never.
Well, no, we talking about Shade. It's fine. It was really a really strong run. Then they kill that character, wait for a couple years and bring in a new character who's young, and then wait a couple more years to bring back that old character that everybody loved. I'm
surprised it didn't get a CW show in the meantime. That's all I'm saying.
I bet you there's going to be a Nova movie the next 10 years.
All right, should we move on? Unless we have anything else to say about Jemisin and
Oh, not at all. No, I'm like I actually just bought after finishing this up again. I bought one of the Broken Earth books, and I've been reading on and off the How Long Till Black Future month, which is fucking great.
Yeah. All right, well, let's talk about what is this book? What exactly is Far Sector? Why do we pick it? Corey, I'll let you answer the first question. Why we chose this book? Because I mean, you chose. I mean,
like I like Green Lantern as I like Green Lantern, and after like seeing all like the good things that were said about the first couple of issues, I decided to pick it up when it was doing its like ongoing run, and I loved it. I thought it was really, really good. At the time, even though it wasn't finished, I kind of put it away and put it off to the side. Then I sat down after it came out. And I just like read it all in one sitting. And it was just like the art was so good, and then the story just felt so original, but also like faithful enough that it's like using things from the DC universe that it kind of tied in so well. And it's somebody who clearly is a very big like nerd and also fan of this like character, like the character's backstory. So it's a lot of like respect for that too. It's just a very good like standalone comic. Like the art's amazing, everything's amazing, but it ties in really well with a superhero theme behind it. And I like it. I mean, obviously, I like books like that can play around in this genre and make something as original as this and also as entertaining as this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much covers why we picked it.
Also, it's the main character is a black bisexual woman, and it makes it just I just know it pisses somebody off out there that this exists.
I do love. I mean, we'll get to what we love and more specific stuff about this book in part 3. But one of my favorite things about this book is simply that it exists.
Yeah,
I just love that the book like there's a lot of terrible things about 2022. I mean, if you haven't heard of the news, then we don't need to fill you in on this podcast. But
no,
I don't think even 5 years ago a book like this exists.
No,
which is just. It's just fantastic, and like you said,
it's like also,
I love the who it makes angry.
Yes, and it's also like all those things inside of it too, where it's just like but it's like all of the things like I mean we're gonna go down through all the list and everything, but it's like all these things that exist inside of it. But Jemisin just does such a good way to like weave it into the story that none of it ever feels like heavy hand or anything like that. All of it feels natural, and it just tells a damn good story that like as Chase said would not have existed 5 years ago, or there wouldn't have been an opportunity to make a book like this 5 years ago.
And even if it did, I'm sure there are black women writing comic books similar to this 5 years ago, but it just wouldn't have been published by DC or Marvel, and it certainly wouldn't have been able to attach a name like N.K. Jemisin to it, even though I'm sure she was as excited to write this as DC was to get it published. So
it's like such a weird timeline to get the guy from My Chemical Romance hired by DC Comics to bring in N.K. Jemisin to make this book.
Yeah. It sounds like a Mad Lib sentence.
It does.
Really.
It sounds like a Mad Lib.
Well, any pre-information for this book, as we already said, it's basically all original characters. Sojourner.
You just know who Green Lantern is.
Yeah, and even
that's even that year. They kind of like they give you enough of it to kind of understand it. They make cool things.
The detail about her ring powering differently than other Green Lanterns is sort of relevant, but again, they explain that in a way that you don't need to have read the other Green Lantern books before.
Exactly.
But I wonder. We'll talk about that later, but I wonder what prefaced that decision, because it doesn't really play much of a role. I wonder if it's simply just they wanted her to be different.
I think it's I think it's one of those things. I think it's just like it's to make her give her own little spin on things. So I mean, like if you want to mess with the powers a little bit too, you got to have like a little bit of like I don't want to say a gimmick, but like something to help the story, but also make it different than she overcomes great fear like everyone fucking else is. Which I mean, that's one of the things I liked in the first place, where we'll talk about her fear of flying, which is just a very interesting concept for like the entirety of like Green Lanterns itself is the entire bullshit. Like
all right, plot summary. Should we run down what happens in this book?
Sure.
Well, just starting from book 1, we get introduced to Sojourner, who is a new-ish. We're not exactly clear how long she's been a Green Lantern.
Well, I think she said, like, I have to do this for a year, basically, or like I'm stationed here for a year, and that's when she... So I'm assuming, like, a couple months in on the job. It's like, it seems like she's been stuck on this weird planet where no one has emotions, allegedly. And there hasn't been much crime, and the book opens up with the first murder in forever, basically.
Yeah, I mean, since the inception of this city, basically. And so in a way, in a lot of ways, this is actually sort of a Batman book. It's a detective book, as much as it's a Green Lantern book.
It is. It's like, it's a detective story, which is like, I think that's like a very good decision as well. Like, they're space cops. Let them do space cop things instead of just,
I mean, it
doing
quite
the
literally,
fuck Hal Jordan's doing.
The opening 2 pages could be ripped from a Batman book. Like,
absolutely.
Bloodied hand on the ground being rained on is...
See, Trey, that's the thing, though. Now we need a new Batman book, Space Batman. Okay, stay with me. He's on Gotham Planet. And there's the Joker's there. Okay. But he's an alien. Alien Joker.
My only gripe with that is that in 2022, Space Batman would probably read a lot like Elon Musk. Is my only issue with that. Billionaire uses his ill-gotten family money to travel to space and punch people. It's a very Muskian tale, if there ever was one. But other than that, great idea.
All my pitches to DC. Every time I go, I got a board meeting with DC. They'd be like, okay, listen, Space Batman. Just like, this is dumb, and I'm like, this is why I can't get any books.
Yeah, because I have the ear of the DC publishers. They listen to me.
I mean, I've been saying that for a while.
All right, what happens after we get our first movie? We're introduced to the board of this planet, which also introduces us to the three main races, which one is.
Yes,
listen,
I'm letting you do this.
I think this book is really great. There's a lot of things I don't think are perfect about this book. One of my least favorite parts about it is the race of like meme eating AI things. That just never makes any sense. I'm sorry. It's just confusing.
It's I think that's I will agree with you, one of the more insane things about this book. But
well, it's also just like my biggest problem with them is like tonally their humor is so out of left field. Like there's one character who's very important to the plot and like shows up in very serious moments where characters have died, and the character's name is like what, Can Has Memes? What's their full name?
I think something like that. Like but also it's just also confusing to read like as like reading something where I'm supposed to be like, am I supposed to be reading @ this?
Oh my god. Yeah, so that's right. Like, they're the @ats. Which
yeah, but it's like @ and then @ so the letter's AT, so it's @. But why wouldn't it be? You know, I don't know. I don't know.
We also have a race of vampire trees. No, not vampire trees. Cannibal vampire trees.
Yes, like carnivores.
There you go, carnivores. Yes. But they do eat each other too.
You know, hey,
as like a sign of great respect, they eat each other.
Jay, I want to put this out there, man. If I die, don't eat me.
No danger with that. You don't have to worry about that even a little bit. And our last race is a race of beautiful black men with tails.
Yes, the Nah.
I mean, they look like fucking Idris Elba. Well,
they're like wings. They're just basically the elves stand-in, or like the most like humanoid out of the bunch.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be one humanoid because Sojourner has to fuck something, and it's not going to be the trees. So
not going to be the trees things. You could maybe have sex with the weird digital.
Well, can things. You? I'm still unclear if they're like.
Wait, hold on. Do they basically trade NFTs in this?
Yes.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, but they're just memes. Like they eat memes and they
aren't NFTs memes.
Stop asking me questions about NFTs. I don't have the answers for you. I literally don't have the answers.
And explain to us. White mansplain to me what NFTs are.
No, thank you. You can do that on Corey's other podcast, White Problems.
Hello, welcome to White Problems with Corey Bishop. Call in now.
So after that, our killer is unceremoniously dispatched by another killer, and now we have 2 murders in the span of 2 days. On a planet that hasn't had murders in millions of years. So obviously shit is hitting the fan.
And it's the only person who really is on top of things because they don't really necessarily have the same as a police force. I don't even think they said they have like a murder unit basically.
No, I mean there's I can't remember what they're called. There's like a security force.
Like there's like a military police kind of thing. They're like more like security officers rather than actually like protecting the peace.
But a big reason why she's there, as she says in the first book, is because murder is commonplace on Earth. I mean, again, slam dunk on Earth. eat shit Earth. But she's there because she's familiar with murder and will know how to handle this, presumably. But then, of course, one of the best, I think, thematic struggles of this book is that she's supposed to be this figure of knowledge and experience. But, of course, we know, and I don't think it's much of a secret to them, but she's not. She's very new to this job. She, as we see later in the book, basically got plucked off the street by another Green Lantern because, as you know, she's fit the bill. But this is her first rodeo. So
yeah, like I mean, and even in her background, she wasn't like a crime scene detective. So It's like, you know the basics, but you still gotta do the whole. I I like that when you're like kind of getting this whole like regular person solving a mystery thing, because they don't fucking have all the answers, and I think that sometimes makes a better story than like.
Well, she was a police officer.
She was a beat cop, basically.
But yeah, she wasn't CSI.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens next, Corey? After the second murder.
The second murder. Trying to catch up myself, my friend. I mean, kind of. I think like after the second murder, we kind of start getting like ourselves based in the society for the most part. As we're like kind of like, I mean, obviously like it's just like kind of follow along with that, but half of that is like trying to like slowly get to the point in a sense. Not get to the point, but we kind of start getting a little bit more about her character as she like follows in chase after the second murder, where we get revealed that she is afraid of flying, which is like half of what Green Lanterns do.
I wondered, how'd she get here?
And I'm sure they got spaceships.
Okay.
Like they don't have to fly their entire way across the universe. You get tired. Like, you don't want to walk everywhere, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree. We also we are introduced to or get more familiar with the emotional dampening.
Idea?
What is it? It's not a drug. They just like it's just done to them at birth, I guess.
I think so. It's like a
because they have to then take a drug to reverse the effects of it.
I think it's like a brain implant for when they're young, but it's basically like prevents them from having, I guess, too much emotions. Not like necessarily like robots.
Really. I'd love to talk about that later too, because
yes, that also is one of my.
They don't seem to not have emotions. Like
because I think it would be impossible to write an entire society of just robots.
I was really when that element was introduced, I was really interested to see how Jemisin, who I think is like a pretty talented science fiction writer, would tackle a world that would look so like literally everything would look different if you inhabited a world with no emotions, and then sort of nothing looks different. It's just they just keep talking about how nobody has emotions, but everyone then acts the same.
I think I guess in a way it seems to me like the idea behind it is that the people who aren't, they act with logic rather than like doing the whole like I'd follow my heart thing. And I think like I don't think she explained it. Maybe this is me guessing for her, but like it seems like the people still have like emotions. Obviously, people like have relationships and friendships and all that stuff like that. But it seems like when they're making decision making, like when it's decision making, they rely a lot more on logic rather than any kind of like follow your heart or gut feeling kind of situation, which is the very opposite of our main character, who is literally just kind of following her gut the entire story.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. So after we get the second murder, stuff in the city enduring, as it's called, starts to boil over. There's two factions that begin to form. That's basically keep the emotion dampening, whatever it is, and remove the emotion dampening. And again, this is kind of like my point. Both sides of this argument, one that's supposed to have lots of emotion, one that's supposed to have little to no emotion, they both get into like a rage induced riot battle, which you would think if you had no emotions you wouldn't be passionately shouting at somebody, but either way.
Well, I mean, looking at the pages like right now, though, I'm kind of going back and referencing like when the things just started. I will say it's interesting though, like they had the crowd of like people with like the torches and the ones who were yelling against the other people who were just very stoic looking. So. And it's weird because it's like why are you opposing this logically? It's a bit Well,
I think the side, both sides obviously have their merits, because we see everyone clings to the fact that the reason there's been peace, because of course before the last million years or whatever, this city was basically formed by war. It was a existing planet that got literally destroyed by a war between these three races, and then split apart onto different ships, and over the course of thousands or millions of years formed back into a peaceful city. And most people believe, or many people believe, because that is essentially entirely to do with the emotion dampening technology that they use. That like because they're not hot-headed anymore, they're not getting in literal race wars. And then some people believe that you need emotions to live, which as a human being it's hard to argue against that.
Yeah, like you kind of like Like, listen, I mean, I like my emotions and all that stuff like that. I mean, it would suck to, like, kind of do the whole logic thing. Not everybody wants to be fucking Spock the entire time.
Right.
But yeah. So, I mean, like, but of course, as most situations like this, when things come to a boiling point, the police weirdly start firing on people. Out of nowhere. Strange.
There is some not very subtle.
Oh no, the book isn't subtle, but I think I love it for the fact that it's not subtle.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty classic, especially since the introduction of Jon Stewart. Green Lantern is not exactly a DC IP that is afraid to shy away from conversations about race in America. So
I mean, absolutely. I mean, like, I think one of the benefits of the Green Lantern Corps, I believe, it's like for the most they've like I won't say every race. I don't believe there's been like an Asian Green Lantern yet, but for the most, I mean, they've kind of done a good job about like having people from a lot of different backgrounds and use those kind of backgrounds as ways to like influence the stories that they're telling.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, it's always kind of an interesting like story for these kind of characters. Just like, you random person, now you have a superpower, and it's kind of just do your thing rather than somebody who's, I don't know, better way to put it.
It's a great narrative tool. I mean, it's effective for a lot of reasons, and we see in Far Sector why that's the case. All right, so we go forward after the riot, and the city continues to devolve. The council is making callous decisions. We find out that they are the ones that made the call to attack the civilians, and
for a sense, kind of in a very similar Snowpiercer kind of mentality.
Yeah.
Have them revolt every once in a while to kind of give them that feeling, reset them.
Which, it doesn't, I mean, I guess if you had to do it every couple millions of years, it seems weird. Like, it's not like any people that were alive at one point were then alive at the other one. So, like, it takes multiple generations to boil up into rage or whatever.
I guess so. I guess it's just like I guess there's like some kind of boiling point that they eventually kind of go back and forth. It's only centuries. It's not like millions of years, but
yeah.
I don't know. We don't actually know how long these people live too. And
That's
it's like
true.
suppression of information. Obviously, you can do the whole.
Well, I guess the AIs seem to live forever. That would make sense.
But still, like,
and also perceive time differently than we do.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's a good reaching a boiling point. As like, clearly, this murder is only just the tip of like the proverbial iceberg for the city to kind of being like on this powder keg of just ridiculousness. And also, as time's going, I also want to like state this. I love the designs that they give to Sojourn throughout the book. And it's always weird to me whenever I see Green Lantern characters where you can like make your own clothes and you keep wearing the same uniform every day. Never made much sense to me, but I do like I like her design. I like the style that they kind of give her throughout the book.
Well, I guess you want to be recognizable, right?
I feel that. Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think by herself, her design is very recognizable with her hair and glasses, but still.
Yeah. And then, of course, I've said, of course, like, this is a thing that you would know if you hadn't read the book. We then venture into the AI world through a implant created by the Green Lantern ring in Sojourner's head. She plugs into the system. This comes after there is attack on Sojourner and a member of the council who was killed by an ancient race of androids, it seems.
I fucking love comics.
it's again that is what happened. I mean, I know it sounds
no, that's what happened. You're very right.
What happened. And she chases into she goes into the AI world to chase down this lead, and we are exposed to a world quite literally like hidden from the real world, where these AIs live in poverty and hunger. And there's the scene where the Sojourner and Can-Haz are at a diner, and a AI comes by and begs for a piece of cake. And again, like we said, not a very subtle book, but has a lot of interesting things to say for sure.
Who needs subtlety? Some people do.
Yeah,
some people do.
Sometimes I want a little bit but again, when you're trying to make a point like this, I think it's difficult to be subtle, especially when especially in a science fiction world, because if you're too subtle, you can be your point.
It's very clear to get lost because people
missed. Yeah.
I mean, like the many idiots as we've seen over time that comic books can't be political, where one of the main comic characters is Captain America, who runs around just like a fucking U.S. flag. So you know.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. We don't need to talk about those guys anymore.
No, we don't. This isn't the time. It's just.
Yeah, then we get a long Matrix inspired battle where the perpetrators of the attack are tracked down and then pulled out of the AI world into prison, or I guess
AI prison.
Yeah, AI prison, and they are questioned by the security forces of the city Enduring. And then it's revealed that what was my guy's plan again? The her lover. It's I've read their conversation maybe 4 or 5 times, and I'm still not clear what he thought was going to come of this.
I don't know if it's super duper like important for that as a story aspect. It is a bit confusing, and it does get muddled a bit when going through the story, I guess.
He's basically been sort of trying to pull the strings from behind the scenes to get Switch Off legalized, which is the drug that removes the emotion dampening. But
I think it's also like his character is like, every time I kind of go back and forth, my decision making kind of changes.
Right, which it would. If you're emotional half the time and not emotional the other half, then you're likely
be a very big internal struggle.
Yeah.
That person probably shouldn't be in charge of important things, though.
One of the 3 most important people in a city of billions. Which also, she kept using the word city and then billions of people. Can it be a city if it houses billions of people?
I don't know the definition of a city, Che.
At what point does a city just become a country or a planet?
Well, I guess when your buildings get small.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know either.
Okay. So we've okay. Then we get to the I was trying to think of a better word, but I can't really think of a word. Basically, the asylum where the asylum / emotion farm where the Switch Off addicted residents of the city Enduring are housed, and their emotions are farmed to make memes.
Yes.
Which again, keep it moving. Is a real sentence.
That's a sentence, and it is a vital part of this book.
It's actually, despite the way it sounds, it's actually a really well-written scene. I still think, I just wish she'd picked something besides memes as the currency in this book. Because...
I mean, dude, memes are currency in the real world, bro. Dogecoin, get fucking hip.
I mean, I guess you're right. I can't argue with that.
We live in a stupid world.
Yeah. So, Sojourner, as a very emotional, again, we should reference, she was given the chance to take the emotion dampening, and she didn't, and that's the big reason. If she thinks that her emotions are a key part of what makes her a Green Lantern and what makes her a valuable asset to this city, and we see the negative side of this when she sees the effects of what's going on at this asylum / farm, where she loses it and attacks the guards and makes a mess. I
can't imagine how angry I would be if consistently people kept on telling me I'm being too emotional and everyone else is just acting with logic. I feel like I would fucking just lose my mind.
Yeah.
Like immediately, it wouldn't be a thing.
Well, she's also got even like the romantic interest in this book is like she doesn't take Switch Off
until like the very end.
Yeah. So like even the person she's supposed to be closest with on this planet is emotionless, and like there's like a scene at the beginning of the book where they sort of break up, and
like they said, like they were together, but they're like, it's like it just made more sense logically for them to break up rather than, and like, damn, it's rough.
So then, of course, after making the mess, Sojourner is detained and gets brought back to.
And then she just goes to jail for 40 years.
What a slam dunk end to this book. Where they
Yeah,
were
just like, hey, like, listen, we got canceled. She's just in jail.
Turns out wrongful imprisonment exists on all the other planets too. While she's in prison and being questioned about what's going on, the rebellion it gets set into motion. Basically, it's not a rebellion; it's a coup. Coup gets set into motion where the head of the AIs,
the AT-ATs.
the I guess I should call them the AT-ATs, even though I hate it. I don't want to call them the AT-ATs, but the head of the AT-ATs has basically taken command of the city and is using the weakened defense force of the city, because like we've said, were a city of peace until now, but also the fact that they're very reliant on the AIs, the AT-ATs, to their advantage. And there's even a scene where I think it's in the last book where Sojourner breaks into one of the attacking, like the elite, like the head of the fleet attacking the city, and is talking to the ship captain, who's like, I don't want to kill any of these people, but I've been given an order and I listen to orders, which is the most horseshit thing ever.
It's so peak fantasy, where it's just like, listen, I listen, I'm a good person, but orders are orders. I have to kill all these people. Yeah,
it's a very utilitarian approach to basically power, where there's even a line where she says, like, the situation has gotten out of control and I've basically been told to do this, and it's the only thing I can possibly think to control people is to kill all of them, which is sort of the crux of this book, right? And I think the major thesis of this book is that, like, the cogs of power will turn anybody into a number if they can. And I think that's, like, if I was to summarize this book in a nutshell, it would be that, like, big. I was gonna say big government, but big government makes me sound like a fucking Proud Boy. But, like, government is capable of dehumanizing anybody, and unless there's somebody there to fight for you, and it's usually a black woman. Unless there's a black woman there to fight for you, you will be swallowed up by the system and destroyed. And it's in this book. It's much more literal than I think it is in real life. Although sometimes it's quite literal in real life too. Yeah, I think that's kind of the crux of the book, right? That's the plot. Yeah. We do get, like we said, there's finally at the end, her love interest takes Sis, who's also the head of the police force, takes Switch off, and they kiss for the first time where both of them can feel something.
Deep.
Yeah, which is a moment that I think works more on paper than it did in the book for me. I guess, like, to me personally, I just never really got there. Like, well, Sis is like such a boring character by design. Yeah, so, I just never really saw them clicking, and I mean, maybe that happened before the story started, and I mean, that's not what the story was really about in the first place. But that's why I thought it was weird to, like, make that your beat right before the end. I mean, it's the kiss is 3 pages before the end of the book, which I actually think is beautifully done. The end of the book, we see her shine the Green Lantern into the sky, and then, of course, we get in the brightest day, in the blackest night, and then end. Which I think is really... I think that if you had just gone straight to that instead of having the kissing... I forgot they made a deal that Sis was going to, like, take Switch off once all this was over. I just didn't really care about their relationship.
I mean, I don't know. I kind of liked it on a whole cheesiness kind of aspect of being like, oh, now that she finally can feel, like, things, she's like, oh, I'm just being an idiot kind of mentality, but who fucking knows? Jay's dead inside, and I'm a romantic, so, let's...
I'm not dead inside. You said yourself, it was by design, it was not an interesting relationship because one person had emotion and the other person didn't, when we could see them. Obviously, we joined this story basically halfway through their relationship, right at the beginning of when the murders start. So she's been there for a couple of months. She's already basically living with Sis, which I thought was interesting. I mean,
yeah. Listen, they're just good roommates. They're just really good roommates. There's no tension there ever. There's just really good friends.
Yeah.
Good. Hanging out.
Yeah.
Drinking coffee and touching each other on the face lovingly continue. I'm like, yeah,
we're
friends.
Coffee
friends my ass.
Is a stretch. coffee shouldn't be poisonous.
That's fucking hilarious. Let's take a quick break, though, Che, and we can break down the rest of the book.
All right.
My name is Peter B. Parker. I was bitten by a radioactive spider, and for the last 22 years, I thought I was the one and only Spider-Man. What a day. I'm pretty sure you know the rest. You see, I saved the city, fell in love, I got married, saved the city some more, maybe too much. My marriage got testy, made some dicey money choices, don't invest in a spider-themed restaurant. Then like 15 years passed, blah, 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 super bummer, I broke my back, a drone flew into my face, I buried Aunt May, my wife and I split up. But I handled it like a champion. Because you know what, no matter how many times I get hit, I always get back up. And I got a lot of time to reflect and work on myself. Did you know that seahorses, that they mate for life? Could you imagine a seahorse seeing another seahorse and then making it work? She wanted kids and it scared me. I'm pretty sure I broke her heart. Flash forward, I'm in my apartment doing push-ups, doing ab crunches, getting strong. When this weird thing happened, and I gotta say, weird things happen to me a lot, but this was real weird.
And we're back.
What's up?
All right, it's time to talk about some specifics for those of you who are familiar with the format of this book. First half is general. Second half is really, really, really specific. So if you haven't read this book yet and you made it 50 minutes into the podcast, I mean, thanks, but please bounce. Don't spoil this book for yourself. Go read it. We're about to get into even more heavy spoilers than we did in the first half. So let's jump into it. We'll start with the negative because we will close out with what's really great about this book. But let's start with points of criticism.
Let's start with the one that, like, I guess we kind of been touching on this through our summary of it. The emotion exploit and how it was explained.
I think it's such a good idea. I think it's a good idea. My problem is with the execution, which is that
it's like
doesn't
my thing
seem
is
to do anything.
And I think that's like a good, interesting thing with like the council member who does it, where you could be like, is he on it? Is he off it? A lot of the times, but the characters who are like, I'm still like emotionless, they sometimes will still act with emotion. So it's like a kind of like confusing a bit.
But even he was like the only real difference I saw in his characterization on the page, the way she wrote him, from when he was supposed to be on the emotion exploit and when he was supposed to be on, I just blanked on the name of the drug.
I think it's just switch off.
Switch off. Yes. When he was on switch off, is that he would make advances on Sojourner. But other than that, he sort of acted the same. He seemed
I think he also had that like
cold and rational.
Well, to me, I know. But his emotion thing, I thought it was like kind of the real, like he's like actually very like he feels a lot of guilt for what he's done, and like
yes, that's true. He would have guilt.
Like,
he would have guilt.
I think that's what I think. Like the reason that he started acting out was because he realized like how bad of a job that they were doing.
Mm-hmm. But then he's still. Yeah, I guess.
I'm saying he's still like not a good person.
No. I think guilt is one of those emotions that like the whole point of it is
he's
that
attractive.
You remember.
So it doesn't matter.
That's what I said.
There's
a whole race of hot black people.
You could be an asshole.
I mean, to be fair, every humanoid in this book is attractive because every humanoid in every comic book has ever been attractive. I mean, Sojourner has fucking guns. Like, looks like a supermodel. She's supposed to be a soldier and a cop.
Also, like, she just like has perfect hair all the time. It's like, come on, like you're just like go to bed. Like, come on, what are you doing?
Love her.
Green Lantern.
One of my favorite parts of her character design is her hair.
Oh, absolutely. I love how it changes. I love how her outfit changes. She just a great character design overall.
Yeah, but I agree with you. I think the emotion exploit for something that is so major to the plot is probably not executed the best it could be. Because I actually think, like I said, I was really excited for it. I think that is, and I would actually really love to see that written somewhere else. Maybe we can revisit this world and see. Although I guess now the emotion exploit presumably will be gone, or at least switch off will be legal. I don't whatever.
Yeah.
But I just think that's a world in which everyone's emotionless, and then you get to see that like even cold, calculating, callous people will make these a lot of cold, callous, calculated decisions about people's lives, and that in itself can be as bad as people being hateful and violent. I thought that was a really interesting world that you could have built, and I just think there was a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I agree with you.
My other big one, and this is I know I sound like a broken clock when I say this, but it's almost always the case. I just think narration in comic books is a crutch and usually not that good, and I don't think it's very good in this.
I liked it.
I
liked it. I thought it was not the. I don't think I'm not gonna say it was great, but I liked it. It gave me that whole like. Listen, it gave me that whole like pulp like back in the day detective vibe to me. I don't know.
I didn't think it was actually. If it had been like this like sort of gritty, grizzled cop narration.
But I think that's kind of another. I think that's a different idea about it though, because it's like she's like a very different character for this archetype. I mean, like she's.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked it. I thought like a kind of, especially when she's like bouncing off a lot of emotionless people. It was to me, I liked it. Like kind of.
I think based on the structure of the book, it was necessary. We need to get some look into her internal mind for it to work. I think it's not. For somebody who is just a good writer, I think the narration of this is just not really well written. I don't think Sojourner does not come off as like funny in the narration, when I think she's supposed to be a very funny character, and we see her be funny with actual people in dialogue. For me, it just doesn't work. I get why.
I liked it. I get what you're saying. I think I'm disagreeing with you on that one, but duality of man.
Yeah. Another point for you, Corey.
Another point for me. As we were going through the plot, it's a bit a lot. It's and then like when you get to the end, it's one of those things where like the journey is what makes the book good, and not necessarily the plot itself.
It's a story. It's a story about the characters and the world building, much less about the plot, I think.
Yeah, like at the end of the day, like the whole like, I mean, even though I just read this book, I'm like, what the fuck happened in the end again? And it was like I know she wins, but it's the plot itself of the book isn't as important, to the point where I'm like, when it ended, I'm like, I would like to see another sequel in this world with these characters again. And like, yeah, it's very classic like mystery that turns into something bigger. But yeah, I think it was just a little too convoluted at times for me.
Yeah, I think it is either, for the type of story she's trying to tell, 6 issues too long or 6 issues too short. And I think she's sort of backed herself into a corner where she's got enough room to both build this world she's really interested in building and tell a pretty complex plot, but not do both of those to a really effective degree. And I think she leans on building a more complex and interesting world, which is good, because I think that's the part that I'm more interested in. But if this was like 18 books or 20 books long, we might have been able to suss out more of like, what's going on with the plot to mobilize Switch off as like this like catalyst for the coup, and like the differences between the 3 factions and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that gets done, and I think that's another thing about the narration that I don't love, is there's a lot of oh my god, what's the word? Exposition that gets sort of dumped on us to move from one plot point to another. And I think a lot of that isn't because of the convoluted nature of the plot, which
I think like I will say I compliment the exposition early on, and I think sometimes it's very natural and comes across. Sometimes it just feels like a big info dump.
Yeah.
Which is why I feel like when you kind of like when they were going through the races and kind of like doing a good job with that, like I remembered it more than being like, this is this thing, and I'm like, well shit, that's hard for me to remember while I'm dealing with all this other shit. And but yeah.
My last point of criticism, which I already know Corey's going to disagree with, is I find the action, again, let me preface this by saying, I think Jamal Campbell's art is pristine. It is technically amazing. I do think the action in this book is at times quite cluttered. and busy. And there's scenes where Corey's giving me the fucking finger, basically. There's scenes where like stuff is happening and I have to like stare at the page for 5 minutes to figure out who's fighting.
Isn't that
who.
cool though? Like it's like you have like it's like you have to take your time with the book. There's so much that's happening in it that it's just like you have to pay attention to all the details to understand what's happening.
But I don't think it's like effective. I think
I
there
liked
is
it.
I think it's beautiful. I think
it kind of gave me like a very like grander scale to me, at least. Like there was just like there's so much happening at one time. You gotta take it all in. You can't just like read it through. If you do that, you're just gonna miss something.
Yeah.
But I get what you're saying, and I think you are. I think you're right. Sometimes the comics should just be easy and clean to follow. But I kind of like this whole messiness that this guy, that Jamal Campbell, brought into it. Sometimes I agree with you that I'm like hard to follow, but I'm like, what the fuck's happening here?
Right.
And then when I'll go through and be like, oh, here's what's happening here. Now this is cool.
I found myself, especially in action sequences, I would turn the page and my initial reaction would be shock and awe because it's beautiful. The colors in particular, I think he might be the best colorist I've ever seen. And I would be like, amazing. And then I would look closer at the page and I would just think, what's happening? What's going on in this scene? I know Sojourner's fighting somebody or something. I don't know who the fuck this is or what's going on. And again, listen, as far as like it doesn't distract from the plot, eventually I managed to piece together who's fighting who. But I just think, especially in a book like this where action is so I think the major plot points are punctuated by these moments of action. We have the riot, we have the moment in the asylum, we have the coup at the end, even the beginning scene with the not the very beginning, but like the murder and the escaping. So much is like these action sequences punctuate important moments, and I find those scenes to have been sort of dampened. I'm scrolling through book 6 on the YouTube video for anybody watching, trying to find the other action sequence I'm talking about. I'll track it down, but there is it's beautiful. It's fucking beautiful, but I also think at times it's like maybe for pure clarity purposes, I think the action sequence could have been done better. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
Corey doesn't like it.
No, I don't. All right. What's good?
Yeah, what's good? We know how we can.
I love the action drawing. I think it's the best thing I've ever seen. I'm just kidding.
Listen, we don't need to agree on everything. I know. I listen. If for anybody who has been paying even slightly close attention to this, also anybody who listened to our end of year book. Well, no, Corey likes this book a lot more than I do, and it shouldn't be surprised that there will be some things that I'm more down on than he is. I do really love this book. I think it's really well written, and again, I just love that it exists. But yeah, so what did you love, Corey?
I think like Sojourner. I just think like you put her character design, and I agree with you on that. But I think just like as like an intro character, she just felt so like regular that I was just able to like kind of relate with everything that she was going through. Yeah. Like she just felt like a regular person thrown into a very like difficult situation. And she's got fucking style, so it like really does help. Like every time she's on screen, I'm interested to see like either her facial expressions and like they did a good job like that, where it's like a character who's very clearly emotional, in a good way. Like I think one of the points of this book as well is that emotion is a good thing and shouldn't just be like shied away from. And to
not
make
even
a character
shouldn't
like
be,
this,
but like can't be.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't
and it's like
pack this stuff down and forget about it. You can't pretend like you don't feel things, because in the end it will blow
destroy
up
you.
in a much more dangerous way than if you just confronted your feelings in the first place.
Exactly. But yeah, no, I think I loved her character, and I love like the message that she brought to it. And also I really did dig the dialogue, for the most part, especially the interactions. I really liked the dialogue between like, sometimes like, I mean, obviously like the memes is my, like, I didn't bring it up, but the memes is probably my biggest weird, of the book.
I sort of get
like,
it. I mean, it's silly,
I
think
silly.
totally
Like,
it feels a little
I
bit
like
nice.
silly.
Yeah.
I like silly, and silly's fine, but it's like, but I really always liked, her conversations with like either the council members or like the police officers. I like the whole back and forth that they did there. Yeah. Where they're like I mean, like obviously we can see like where the comparisons are to certain things, and the dialogue feels very natural in the way that she was able to not be subtle but make it work, which was just very impressive to me. And I think her dialogue, which is, I think it's hard to do, and I mean like the dialogue's very hard, and it's impressive to me that like a novelist was so good at making back and forth dialogue that just like kept the page flowing. Yeah. In a sense.
Yeah, I agree.
Jay, what else you got?
Well, you already talked about character design. We both agree on that. I also talked about the fact that I just love that this book exists. I think it's amazing. One of the concrete things I really loved about this book is like I guess to call them like cold opens. The cold open references. We get each book opens with like this reference to a Black movie character, or sometimes even like a Black movie. My favorite is the Morpheus opening in book 2.
It was so silly, but it was perfect. I don't know. It's just like I liked her sense of, I like Jemisin's sense of humor with all of it. Yeah. I love the cold opens. I like the throwback to like what the fuck? It's like 1940s romance like novel covers. Yeah. Like it was just like she's definitely had a lot of fun with like the ideas behind this book. I
also think it's not unimportant for somebody like Jemisin to demonstrate to her audience, a lot of which I'm sure there are some people who read this book specifically because they love Jemisin's work and maybe have never read a comic book before. And there are some people who love comic books and also love her work. But I think the vast majority of people picking up this book will be comic book fans who are being introduced to her work for the first time. And it's not unimportant for her to demonstrate that she's one of us, for lack of a better word. It's like, she's a nerd who likes nerd shit. And I think the references they're really smart ways of showing like, I mean, listen, we talk a lot about how comic book fans fucking suck, but to be we're great. The two of us, we're amazing, but in general, comic book fans suck. And I think it's just a really smart and like also a artistically effective way to introduce your characters in this books and also to set the tone for the story, to use these openings to be like, here are these like touch points in culture that we share, which especially when you're doing something like writing a comic book or making a comic book movie, as we've seen before, is very important.
Yes.
Yeah. That's like, I mean, these are sort of like Easter eggs, but that's why people like Easter eggs, is because it demonstrates to you that this person that's making something you love, or, you know, something in the IP that you love, also loves the same stuff that you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. It's like little, she does little things throughout the book, be like, oh, okay, we are very like, clearly we like some of the same stuff, and that makes it like a lot more fun to be like brought up into it. And I mean, it also makes like someone like I like that person more as a writer now, because I'm like, oh, this person clearly is inspired by certain things. Like I like that like Jon Stewart's just like on the covers occasionally, just like as like a little bobblehead or something.
Yeah, she's got like the Jon Stewart like Funko Pop in her room.
And it's like funny. It's like this is like, yeah, it's clear. It's very clear. We're like, I mean, hey, Jon Stewart was like one of the first, I guess, at least to me, getting into like, I mean, superheroes. I mean, like, it was like one of the first, like, oh, he's a Black superhero, where like, that's not really,
for me as a kid who grew up before reading the comic books, saw Justice League and Teen Titans. It was Jon Stewart and it was Cyborg, and those were the two Black characters as far as I was concerned.
So yeah, no, and it's like kind of fun. I mean, I'm sure like, yeah, it's a really kind of cool way to see, like, definitely a throwback to like that, and also like, you know, very clearly this is a book that's in Che's and mind wheelhouse a lot.
Yeah.
Do we have anything else?
Well, I did also just want to shout out in sort of the vein of the cold opens is the opening quotes we get in each book, to basically on the cover page, or not the cover page, in like the credits page, and it is, did I ever think I would pick up a DC book and see an Audre Lorde quote in there? We get quotes from Audre Lorde, Miles Davis, I think Amiri Baraka, unless I misread, a lot of just tons of Black figures throughout history, and quotes about art and about life. I have the opening to issue 5 open on the screen if you're watching the YouTube video, and it's the Audre Lorde quote that goes, "The master's tool will never dismantle the master's house," which is one of my personal favorite Audre Lorde quotes.
That's a good one.
So being able to see that in like a comic book is a ton of fun.
This is fun. It's like, not all quotes should be attributed to like old white men, basically.
It would also, how fucking weird would it have been to open up one of these Fireside books with a Benjamin Franklin quote or something?
Fucking like a Hunter S. Thompson thing.
Hey, I love Hunter S. Thompson.
I'm just saying, it'd be very wild. Like, I was
it
doing
would probably
cocaine
totally
in the back
not fit. Yeah,
I was doing cocaine in the back of a convertible.
Yeah, we got a Nina Simone's another one. Yeah, if you're
Yes.
if you missed those on read through, or if you haven't read this book yet, and for some reason again made it an hour and 10 minutes into the podcast, just be on the lookout for those. I think they're just really great additions. All right, favorite stuff. Unless you got something else.
No, I don't think so. I think I think I'm good. I also mentioned my favorite thing. I mentioned it was a character. But I already talked about Sojourner to death. But no, yeah, let's keep it moving.
All right. Well, first up in our favorite things about this book is our favorite characters. Well, I mean, like Corey said, we already talked about Sojourner, the newest Green Lantern added to the Green Lantern Corps. Is there any other characters you would like to reference?
Not particularly. I don't think so. I think most of the characters do a good job for their plot points. But I think we spend so much time internally with Sojourner that it's we don't really necessarily get enough time to. I mean, we mentioned the kiss at the end, and that character is probably the second most important character, I guess, relationship wise to the main character, and we feel like we kind of missed out a little bit on her as well. Yes. And I mean, I think stories can work like this too.
Well, but, this is an origin story, and origin stories are about one character, and I think it's a good thing that the character that really pops from the screen is Sojourner. I think that's the point, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think if I had to guess, if we could ask Jemisin, I think she also really wanted Ken Has to be a really fun sidekick. I just don't know if it worked.
Yeah, I didn't really.
Don't name your important characters Ken Has memes.
I think the problem with internet culture is that it changes so much that we should never talk about it.
Yeah, it's also just it's just not. I mean, you know what? Are we too old? Are we the old guys now?
No.
Okay.
No, this was they did the same shit when we were in fucking high school. It's it doesn't.
That's true. This is not new. This
isn't new. It's just the same shit. This is just kind of.
Yeah.
I did admittedly, I was just at the absurd thing. I just saw the freaking Doge meme pop up, and I started laughing, just being like, "What the fuck is this?" And it was just more and more shocked me that I'm like, "This is now a plot point."
Yeah.
In this book.
It's again. We don't.
And I like stupid things.
I think it's.
I think we should
maybe a mistake, but what are you gonna do? All right. We talked about a lot that the art in this book is fantastic. So let's go down some of our particular favorite moments of art in this book.
Well, let's I think we probably should start from chronologically for us. I think you saw book 2. I mean, the second issue, the history of the Na and the Kitopli. It's weird whenever you read fantasy books, you don't really say shit out loud.
Yeah, pronouncing
when you're reading
is a little weird. Yeah, I have my first instance is in book 2, page 14. For anybody, I read along with the single issues. Apologies to anybody who has the full full volume like Corey does. But this history of the Na and the Kitopli is a oops, I'm on the wrong. I showed the wrong page because I'm bad at my job. Sorry. Here's the basically we get this mural of the tree folk and the Kitopli, which are the bat people, and it's just a beautiful page. It's sort of imprinted on her face in the background, which is great. Corey, or what's next up? I'm gonna try.
Next up, the dance scene.
Yes, same issue. We have this beautiful blue and purple sequence with
It's just an amazing spread. It's you can just see it's fun whenever you kind of get a good artist to do dancing or martial arts where you can kind of they show all of the steps of things. Mm-hmm. And Jamal Campbell's spread on this page is freaking gorgeous.
I also love that he sparingly uses full page spreads. I think the most powerful tool for a comic book artist is the full page piece. Mm-hmm. And I find a lot of times artists will use it as a crutch. I've read a couple books where it's 3 times an issue, where you're like, come on guys. But he uses them for moments that are a point of accent, and I think this is a really beautiful scene that's rendered fantastically.
Next up. Well, I think we did the same thing. Issue 4 in the 5th page. It's just when the kind of the chaos of the violence started.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
this is
I think Jamal Campbell does a really good job of like impact.
Mm-hmm.
With that, like instead of it making it seem like just like a beam, it feels like kind of a shot out of a cannon.
Yeah, this is a very
every time she uses it.
Turn the page moment, and like the third panel down catches your eye before you even like get context. You like look back up and see what's going on. Really smart. But again, there's another like this in a different book with the artist who had lesser faith in his ability. That panel would have been a full page.
Yeah.
And again, I think it would have undermined the power of these other. But I think it also works really well here because you get Sojourner's face on this page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times, and then but your eye is drawn to this, and all of it's like sort of blue and green, and then the red streak. It's just really beautiful. Like I said, I think he's one of the best colorists, if not the best colorist I've ever seen. And his use of color, especially in like a full page context, is brilliant.
What's next?
Next up is also in this issue another example of his use of color. I marked it down as the Red Rage, but it's basically this scene where Sojourner loses it in the council when she's trying to convince them to take action, and we get these red backgrounds. This is book 4, page 20, with red backgrounds on her speech, and then on all the council members is like the standard, like background of the walls. So we see it's just this visual representation of what is going on in the room, where she's the only person with any emotion. She's the only person that really has any, urgency when it comes to like literally the worst thing that's ever happened in like a millennia is happening on this planet right now, and these people who are in charge don't seem to be doing anything, and she is yelling at them to get them to do something. And I think these 5 panels really demonstrate that. And I love this. It's also like even the last panel of that page where her rage is like mellowing out, is really fading away. The red literally fades from the background. It's just all these smart touches. I think Campbell, as good as Jemisin is, I think this book is nothing without Campbell. I don't think it works.
Issue 10, page 9, the jailed scene.
Issue 10, page. That's the who's jailed there? I can't remember which one. I just wrote down the jailed scene. I'm pulling it up now. It's this is after the. Oh yes, issue 10 would have been after the the raid on.
Yeah, on the prison.
Yeah, and this is I think this is in context, so I'll show the earlier pages. Again, if you haven't gone and subscribed to the YouTube and you're just listening to the audio on this, you're not getting the full experience. Go over there and check out the YouTube.
You should definitely do that. Good sell, Chai.
Yeah, plugging in again. So this is an earlier page. We are on page 9, where again, Campbell uses red for rage, which is not like the most inventive idea, but I really effective in this book, especially.
Hey, listen, it's Green Lanterns, man.
Yeah,
the red rage, green, all the other shit.
Not a criticism, but we get this entire sequence leading up to the jail scene is Sojourner losing it over what's happening in this asylum, and we get all this red scenes, and then you turn the page and see she's in jail, and everything is cold again, is blue, and this like basically full page spread of fully blue panels, and the only splashes of red are the blood on her face. Even her suit is like, because she's not in her Green Lantern suit anymore, so that usually when Sojourner's on the page, you get that stark green, but she's in like a gray blue suit that blends into the background. And
yeah, she powers down from her main costume in like really good moments, I think.
And this is also isn't this the key part of the book where her ring is on like low power yet now?
Yeah,
officially.
It's getting all wonky.
Yeah,
I think that's a good thing about Green Lantern books. You can definitely always build up the tension by having them run out of power soon. That's a good writing tool. I think it's like whoever decided to do that early on. It's a really good idea for writing.
Well, I think everyone learned from Superman. It's like we can't have our only hero's weakness be
a rock
from like his home planet. It's just like, listen, cool, but also.
Also, it doesn't make... How the fuck would a meteor... Never mind.
Yeah.
Wouldn't a meat... Never mind.
And my last piece of the art that I wanted to highlight is, and I've for some reason cleverly titled this "Assault on Precinct Enduring," which is during the coup where there's the attack on the city Enduring. This is, I think, the exception to my original criticism. This is a basically a shock of color and light and basically like lines and shit going on the page, and I think it all works. And I think a lot of that is, again, I'm just gonna keep highlighting it, the colors are fantastic.
Yeah,
you got the purple and pink clashing beautifully with the shocking yellow of the explosions and the lasers and everything, and then the green of Sojourner's suit and her, of course, her Green Lantern powers. It's fantastic. This is I think the overall the coup scene is a little short for me. I kind of wish we'd seen more of the action there, but this sort of lends it this sort of gravitas. This is the best action moment in the book for me, I think, at least.
I mean, I'm the big fan of the Gundam fight, but I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, it's sort of, she's got the Gundam wings on still.
Fair.
Yeah. And I also love that they're like, one of them's like cracked because she's been fighting. Although I don't really get how like why would the Green Lantern armor ever be cracked? But
yeah, because like it's like, just shut up. Just shut up. You gotta shut up. Shut the fuck up. You gotta shut up.
But yeah, that's my any other ones we said we had a lot of overlaps. But any other?
No, I don't. I think I am good.
Yeah.
On that.
But yeah, I mean, it was pretty hard not to basically like just write down a panel every time I turned the page. So I just tried to limit it down to like the things that really sort of took my breath away when I was reading this book. So next up, we've got favorite moments and scenes. You just want to go? Yeah, I'll just start with your list, and then we'll.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like I just kind of thought like I really like the intro for this book. It was just like I like classic show up at a crime scene, something bad happened.
Yeah.
Just immediately on the case, and then we kind of get all the exposition after that. But I really just like the whole tone setting of like that noir thing. I mean, hey, listen.
It's a book that we've talked about before. We talked about recently Newburn, and I can't even remember what the last one before that was. It's a comic book genre, and just a genre in general. I would love more noir films. It's just a genre that seems to have sort of died off, and I think a lot of that is oversaturation. Same reason we don't get Western movies anymore, because for 20 years all they did was make Western movies.
We still get a solid 3 to 4 Westerns a year, though.
Do we get? I mean, we got The Harder They Fall last year. That's I guess we did.
I can look some up.
Future Oscar winner, The Power of the Dog.
About, like,
so.
Yeah, about to say. Probably.
But I mean, Westerns like guy on a horse with a gun shooting bad guys.
Were there not guys on guns with horses shooting people with horses? Hey, I'm tired.
In The Power of the Dog? I mean...
Oh, my brain's not working right now. Leave me alone.
All right, so we have the Morpheus intro, which I already referenced in one of my favorite cold opens. You have Sojourner making her own chair.
Yeah, it's like very. I like that as a scene because like she shows up to the council and they don't even like offer her a seat. Mm-hmm. So like it's like there's a couple of things right there. Like she makes her own seat, character moment right there.
Which is just the logistics of that. Didn't they invite her here?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Why do they treat her?
It's like a weird flex. It's a really weird flex. And then like she makes her own chair, and then like an alien or something pops up on it. So it's like just a little bit of things like being like, oh, she's clearly not entirely in control of her powers.
Yeah.
She isn't somebody who like, even though she sits down, doesn't say people's shit. It's like little things like that. I like their little like character elements that we got very early on with her.
Yeah, there's a lot of really smart, subtle things that Campbell and Jemisin are doing in the first issue to introduce us to who this character is. Because again, this is a brand new DC character. So, I also really love that scene.
Yeah, I think. I guess I got next up in order wise. Just the moment scene where like Sojourner is like with her not girlfriend, roommate, friend thing. She like I guess she's been attempting to get coffee for many months, and as someone who is addicted to coffee, I could not imagine going more than a week without having coffee and then drinking sludge.
Yeah, it's like did she say it had arsenic in it? Right? It's
I don't even know what she said. She said like, well, I think like Sojourner said like it's like drinking like a dead animal or something like that. It was some aptly just
yeah. And there's like a throwaway line that Sis said. There's something like, "I didn't realize your people were like not allergic, whatever the word is, could get killed from arsenic or something."
Yes, it's something like that. Yeah, and it's like
it's a great facial expression in the back of the scene where Sojourner's like spitting out the vile coffee.
We've all been to a friend's house where their parents make you eat something really weird, and you gotta try your best.
Yeah, you just gotta
say you're allergic.
just gotta smile through the pain. Another scene we've already referenced before is my next up is the end of the 3rd issue where the police officers fire on the protest, which again, is especially earlier in that issue we had been seeing clips of or references back to Sojourner's time on the police force and the thing that made her leave the police force, which was seeing her partner assault a civilian. And I think even like 2 pages before that, no, it's just literally the page before that, we get a panel.
They definitely go back to that.
Right.
But I'm usually not a fan of reusing drawings and stuff like that. But I think he does it like a good enough job. Like I think it's
when used
good
sparingly,
to keep
I think it could be effective.
When used sparingly, and also I think it's smart because it's such a shocking memory in her mind that I think that it works to keep it static.
Yeah, and that's that scene is it's very effective. And again, it's like we said, it's maybe a little on the nose, but it's it's on the nose for a reason. I don't think it's I think there's a time for subtlety and a time for not subtlety.
Exactly, I agree with you.
Word. Yeah.
What's next?
I really like Sojourner's backstory just because
I do too. It's a good
it's more of an insight into this character that we've grown to. If it's issue 5 that we get it, which is a pretty bold move to wait.
But I think at the same time we kind of get like it's like I mean that's why it's like such a a striking image of like her being shocked in a cop's outfit, her partner bashing someone's head in with a pistol. Like you kind of have like a lot of like. You don't even really say shit, kind of meant. Like,
I mean, all set off by 9/11, which is
which is also like
when I turned the page and saw 9/11, I was like, "Oh goodness!"
Yeah,
right, we're in store for some.
This
emotions.
As Che, also another Matrix reference in issue 7.
Yeah. Issue 7 is we come back to the Matrix where Can is obviously dressed up but has made herself look like Trinity. And Sojourner is I wish that she'd stuck to being Morpheus, but is now Neo. But I guess there isn't a scene in the Matrix where Trinity and Morpheus fight.
Yeah,
together.
But fuck
is
it.
There? Yeah, I mean,
I'm sure there is. But fuck it.
Yeah, so this is when Sojourner and Can have gone into the AI world, and they enter into this fight with people, and before they fight, as you do in all comic stories, they change costumes, which I love. It's just it's a fun reference. So yeah, that was just another fun moment. And we have last up on my list is the killer reveal, which is closes out at the end of book 22, which is that Sis is responsible for what's been going. I mean, it's basically. I think it's the first time in like a really long time I've been kind of surprised by a reveal in a comic.
Yeah, same. I was like, oh.
A comic book that before this felt like plot wise kind of formulaic, and then you get a real sort of punch in the stomach when you realize that Sis is the killer, or I guess not the killer, but is responsible.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Called the order or whatever. So I think those are my. We're not picking like a best moment, but
no. I think those are yeah. Che, you got some. I see you have some dialogue that you wanted to mention.
I pulled some. I mean, I know you really love the dialogue in this. I pulled some quotes that I really love from this. I'll go through them. It's just 3, so we can do these pretty quick. Book 3, page 10. Lone sheriffs on distant frontiers usually don't leave any family behind that they'll miss. It's just
that's a good one.
It's a beautiful line that sort of encapsulates the duality of Sojourner's struggle, where she's like really, you see pride and determination to do this job well, but also has gone quite literally light years away from everyone she ever knew and loved to do a job that she got presumably like 4 months ago. It's a little crazy on the surface, right?
Yeah.
It's another line that's very on the nose, but of course in book 5, page 16, I think this is in the middle of the, the Sojourner story. Basically, this is after she meets the Green Lantern that recruits her, and she says why she got kicked out from her job as a police officer. And again, very on the nose, but she says, "Are you not black and alive? Should you not matter?" In reference to the fact that, of course, Sojourner is, I was gonna say disbarred, but that's not the word. Just fired from being a police officer because she was tagged in a Black Lives Matter post on Facebook, which I'm sure is a thing that's actually happened to a police officer in America.
Yeah.
And then, of course, last but not least, I have a line that is, in a lot of ways, the crux of what this book was trying to do with the emotions exploit. That I kind of wish it had successfully done. It would have been by far my favorite part of this book. This is, you see, emotions are a difficult vice to give up. When talking about switch off, and it's just a beautifully rendered line. It basically summarizes the whole issue that is plaguing the city and all these characters that we see who are struggling with switch off and the emotion exploit. And like, as we said, the emotion exploit on the surface seems to be working. There's been no violence and no wars for years and years and years and years. But of course, emotions are not just something you can turn off. They are, I was going to say part of your humanity, but part of your humanity, for lack of a better word. I mean, they're not humans, obviously, but you get the point. Those are my those are the quotes I picked from Far Sector. Anything else? Anything else you wanted to reference?
Nothing else I want to reference from Far Sector. I just a great book. I'm happy I get a chance to read it again and discuss it on the pod. But yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, if you made it this far and you haven't read the book yet, go read it. Don't know why there's this whole podcast. I mean, I appreciate it though. If you are
it's nice.
Watching the YouTube video, please like and subscribe. Really helps us out. If you are not watching the YouTube video, go rate us 5 stars. Go tell all your friends about us, and then go subscribe to the YouTube channel, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Do it all. Do all the things. They all take about a second each, and you've got 5 seconds out of your day, I'm sure. So, of course, if you are watching along with our Curse the Rewatch, we have Bulletproof Monk coming up.
Exciting.
I mean, I was gonna call it action film, but I actually really remember if there's that much action in this. It's mostly a Sean William Scott comedy for some reason. That Chow Yun-fat got just depressingly roped into. And for next month, I guess at that point, Moon Knight will be out. So in celebration, less than preparation for Moon Knight, we'll be doing the Moonlight 2016 run for our book club, so you can pick that up now. I was going to do my number 1 book from last year, like we did Corey's number 1 book, but I think I'll spare you guys having to read Monsters for a little bit. We will do Monsters one day, though.
That'd be nice.
Yeah. I think it's more of a it's a summer book, which you can bring that big ass tome to the beach with you and carry that 80-pound book around with you on Cape Cod or wherever the fuck you guys are going.
Wherever they're going.
Yeah.
Let's let our audience go. Jay.
Anything else
it's
for
been
the
a
people,
long time.
Corey?
I do not, my friends. Thanks for listening, though.
I've been Shay.
I've been Corey.
We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.